What's up, chat? How you doing? Let's go, part 2. How are you? What's up? What's up? Welcome back to, this is part 2 now of our 2-part series where we are listening to the entirety of the Elden Ring soundtrack boss themes, and we are ranking them in no particular order, it's just a matter of taste. And then look forward to a complete video of these two things squeezed together sometime next week. So we have a lot to get through, so I wanted to make sure that we kind of just got started right away. This is where we left off yesterday, or last week, I should say, excuse me. As you can see, we had S tier, Elden Beast, Dancing Lion theme, and Midra, Radagon. Who the hell is this? I can't remember who that is. And, what's his name? You know what I'm talking about? Consort? We didn't listen to Consort. That's Leda. That's right. And then, Malekith. A was the Godskin Apostles, Regal Ancestor Spirit, and its twin there, Mesmer. And I think that's Lich Dragon Fortisax. B was Bale, Placidusax, whoever this guy is. This is the vision of Godfrey. Margot. This is the hands. I can't remember the name. And then the Mimic, which was, oh yeah, those united in common cause, yeah. And then this was the Mimic, which was for what's his name? It was for Jory. Okay, and then we had Godfrey down at Loretta, Fire Giant. Who is this? Dragon, and then Astel. Okay. So that is pretty much where we are. So now we are going to move into these guys, the other guys. So this is the Moog image. What's it called? Let's get started. Hold on one second. Fake Moog, Omen Illusion. That's what it is. Ah, this video is unavailable. Uh-oh. That's not good. It got taken down. Well, it's just Moog Phase 1 without lyrics. So let's jump down to Moog and just listen to the whole thing then. Ah! Got taken down. With the nihils for the sake of it. You know, you know, what's interesting is so a couple different things that really stand out to me in this piece still. Now, I haven't listened to that. It's been, I think the last time I listened to it was the last time I made a tier list. I think the harpsichord in there still to this day really, really, really just feels very right. The question was, is the harpsichord in there because of the whole dynasty royalty? That's what it makes me think of. I think it's a couple different things. I think when I hear the harpsichord in there, when we think of harpsichord, what time period do we think of? We think of Baroque, we think of Bach, we think of early Mozart, well, Mozart in general. We think of Haydn, we think of Handel, right? Very squarely in the Baroque sort of time period. And so to me, that expresses a soundscape of age, of decorum, of very, very, very tight like outfits and leggings and pant legs rolled up and frills on the shirts and wigs, and so there's an elegance about it. And I think if you want to dive into it, you could also think that with Moog, since Moog is moving and floating around, there's a bit of a breeziness in Moog that I think comes through really well with that harpsichord as well. Also, something pretty interesting. There's the second half of this, now understanding like Moog's like sort of part to play in this. The back half of this and the descending men is a really interesting sound to me. And I think it actually represents almost a desire to move in a different direction, or the desperate qualities of not being able to control your own fate anymore. Or I mean, this is the cool thing about music, is that when we get added context, we can interpret different things. So there's like 3 different ways to interpret this theme now. If you want to just do it the first way could be he's evil, he's vicious, he's vile, he's look what he's done to America and so on and so forth. But the second way to interpret it would be, wow, he's broken. He's backed up against a corner and has no way out of this situation. And he's basically like been left to rot in a way that how do I want to explain that? Essentially, like, to me, in my limited knowledge of things post DLC and stuff, like, it really does feel like he's almost trapped in a choice. So the descending men in that piece, especially because of the sort of open vowels and things, it feels like loss of control. And again, but that's completely my interpretation of it based on what I know about the lore and him being charmed and so on. And having no free will. Yes, thank you. So that's where I'm sitting on that. I think it's a really decadent piece. I think it's a really rich piece. And I also think that it's very, it's very stacked from top to bottom. It's a very like heavy piece that continues to move. And I think the harpsichord, also to go back to it, the harpsichord is really unique in this particular track, and it does provide a bit of a respite, and it's a bit more interesting, where if the harpsichord wasn't in it, I think it would end up being a little bit shallow, or sounding a bit more shallow. So it's cool how music, and this is something to think about for any of the tracks that you love in video games, is that you can interpret them correctly being with the context, or you can interpret them how you feel them. And there's really no right or wrong. I mean, technically there is a right because of what's based on the context, but taking that context out of it and listening to it like we just did, it's pretty cool, because there's so many little things that we can pick up on, and you should work towards picking up on your own. And whatever you feel is technically right. Even though it's wrong given the context. But this is the power of active listening, and this is the power of like having music move through us and feeling music, because there is, in truth, no right or wrong way to analyze or to feel music. Music is a felt experience. And even though this is all contextual, there's a lot of differences. I'm going to put that in a solid A. I'm going to put that in a solid A for me. It's very good. I wouldn't want to listen to it outside of the game or this experience, I would say. Is the harpsichord infrequent in modern world of music? I would say yes. It's not really used that much anymore. I mean, it's used in modern, in like operas, but it's not used like outside of the given circumstances or the given operas, like the operas of, like I mentioned, Handel or Bach oratorio. It would be featured in. It would also be featured in Mozart recitative, or I guess even in bel canto recitative. And bel canto was a time period where there was a big emphasis on singing. And bel canto literally means beautiful singing. And so there was this thing called recitative in opera, and recitative essentially is the structure of a modern song. The structure of a song in opera. A song in opera that's being sung by one person is called an aria, an aria. I don't know why it's called that. I forget, or it really is irrelevant because it just means song. But they're structured in a couple different ways, and it depends on the time period as well. So when we think of Mozart's time period, which is where you would have seen harpsichord a lot, or a Handel oratorio, and an oratorio is a liturgical work, usually in reference to the life and times of Jesus Christ. So let's use... I don't know. I'm sure you've heard of the Messiah. It's a very famous piece that's usually sung in the holiday time period, and it tells the life of Jesus Christ and angels and stuff. And those are structured, and Mozart opera arias are structured like this. You have the opening, which is usually just a chord, which a chord is 3 plus notes. And essentially what it does is it sets up the singer. So go brum brum. Hello, ba 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 ba, and then it plays again. Brum brum bra ba 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 brum brum, and so that's basically a declamato or a parlato, sort of almost a spoken style of singing, called recit, and recit is basically intoned speech, but not on the same pitch. So all they're specifically pitched and like written in the score, so you would have to sing the correct notes. There are other styles of that kind of parlato singing style, spoken singing style, which would be one note and just like a chord, and then you would sing literally just the same note over and over again, and those are symbols. They're a music note with an X. And the X is basically like this. I am intoning. This is the X kind of experience. It's not I am intoning, which would all be written out, okay? So then after that, you move into the aria proper. So the recit will end, right? And then that's when, in Mozart and Handel and whatever, in that time period, Bach even, that's when the harpsichord could still be playing. Well, you know what? Do you want an example of an aria like this? Okay. All right, check this out. While you guys argue about rank. So this is this is me actually. Hold on one second. So I learned this. in 4 days because the tenor had to step out because they were sick. What was the name of this? Oh shit. Judas Maccabeus. They maybe took it down. Let's see. Ohio. Where was this? Was this in Ohio? Judas Maccabeus. I think it was here. Yeah, here it is. And then an example would be... Yeah, okay. This is an example right here. Okay. So this is me in 2014. So, oh my god, 10 fucking years ago. All right, so check this out. So this is the standard format. Oh, you can't see the screen. Sorry. Oh, no, you can. This is a standard format for an oratorio. The singers are usually sitting at the front. You usually will have chorus, and then this is obviously the orchestra. And then right here is the harpsichord, which we're talking about as it relates to Moog, Lord of Blood, okay? So now, when it's your time to sing, you stand up, and in this case, you would have you have the music in front of you. You don't have to be memorized or whatever. So you hear that? So this is how we use oratorio in this time period. So, or a harpsichord in this time period. So he's playing the harpsichord. So we're like, I'm just saying something, explaining the story of this particular character from the story of the gospel. And now he's going to keep playing the harpsichord, but normally he would switch over. But you see how now the harpsichord's still in it, but now it's the strings that are leading this. But the harpsichord's sort of guiding the music. And then I'm looking at the conductor. So we're taking turns. I sang, then they're repeating the same format. So that's the sort of like modern use of harpsichord that we would see today, outside of the video game context. You know what I mean? So anyway, so that's just something to think about. So the question was that led me down this long diatribe is harpsichord? Do we hear harpsichord in modern times? And not really. We hear it in performances of composers from that time period, right? All right, so the next one is Promise Consort Radon. Let's take a listen. One sec. I think harpsichord is a nice sound, yeah. We went to high school together? Who dat? Who dat? I don't think. Hold on. I don't think. Just to pause really quickly. I don't think that this is super reused. Like, there are elements of it that are reused, but actually this is a much stronger version of the, well, obviously of the Radon theme. I actually don't think that this is what it is it's a variation on a theme rather than being a complete it's not a rehash. It's absolutely not reused. It's a modification on, it's a modified version of the theme. It's a variation on a theme. And this would be absolutely a Wagnerian callback, which is very common in the works of Richard Wagner or Puccini, where we're recapping a melodic idea from before. I just want to clarify that, because it's very easy to be like, well, it's just reused, because it isn't. It really isn't. It's barely reused. And personally, I think it's actually a much stronger piece than Star Scourge Radon. But we'll get into that in a second. We went to high school together. Who is that? I have to know. This is the merge. Yo, that's so cool, by the way, is that at the very end here, what we end up getting is we end up getting a really, really fascinating thing where at the very end of the piece, now obviously it would loop, but what's really crazy to me is that in the very tail end of this, we actually pull back, and what we end up with is just Michaela's voice with timpani. And so we get like a neutered, it's really cool. We get a neutered version of Radon at that point. So we get completely stripped of Radon's dominant male chorus, and what we're left with is the angelic singing of Michaela mixed with the drums of Radon. That's such a really neat detail. My gosh. So the problem with the thing I hate and struggle with reactions is that they're kind of shallow. And what's really hard is that there's actually like a bunch of like fun detail. Like you should sit down and you should listen to the music that you love like 50 times. Like I should do a series where I listen to XYZ game for 15 hours, or I listen to the XYZ track from XYZ game for 15 hours. This is what I discovered, because there is so much, there's so much little nuance, to explore in here. I love the string veracity that we hear. There's a lot of movement in the strings. There's also a really, really cool emphasis on the duality between dominance and femininity. You know what I mean? Like, it's really interesting how, even though, so Michaela's a young boy, and the sort of softness of the soprano, or the young boy in this probably case, is probably a young boy soprano. The balance between those two is so fascinating to listen to. I saw a lot of you talking about how this is probably FromSoft's best track, and I would say that it's certainly the most unique. It's the most, okay. When I say unique, I actually think that Ludwig or Midra are more unique. But what I mean by my statement is that it's the most heroic piece that they've ever made. You know, where it doesn't feel heavy, it actually feels quite powerful and invigorating, and like a genuine feeling of elegance and grace, and much less intense than most of the, certainly the least intense of this entire soundtrack in terms of its emphasis. But yeah, I think it's really interesting, because if you compare it to the greats like Living Failures, or Lady Maria, or Ludwig, or Gale, or the DS3 main theme, or Soul of Cinder, or Gwyn, or, you know, sort of like Sif's theme, like the sort of like the who's who of FromSoft music, from Soulsborne music, I would say that this one is probably the brightest of them. And Lady, and of course Sister Frida, yeah. So I think to me, like, Promise Consort is, it teeters between S plus and S, because I find it's really interesting, and I think I'll put it at an S. Well, no, I'll put it at S plus, because I think that these other themes are really solid, and I would listen to any of these like for funsies, like while I'm doing something. Yeah, let's do that. I would say, like, I think these are extremely unique for the game. It's interesting. I had this video will come out in I think in a week or so, but I had a guest, another tenor named Kevin, who listened. I played Starscourge Radon for him, and he actually felt it was fairly derivative, and we had the back and forth about what derivative means. And it's really interesting, this conversation, especially with other classical musicians, about like what is interesting to them, and why this is exciting, right? So I was really excited about hearing Starscourge Radon, because it, like, marries so beautifully everything I love about classical music mixed with everything I love about video game music, right? Like it's like a holy marriage there. And he was saying, and his point was quite interesting, not to spoil the fucking episode, but he was saying that that it's derivative in the sense that it's not anything that they haven't heard before. It's really good use of the instruments, and it's really good use of the things that are very common in classical writing, and that's as far as it goes. But to me, I was like, I'm sort of surprised that you could call it derivative, because for me, this is so fresh and unique for the like video game experience. And it's definitely one of the most interesting tracks that I've listened to recently, especially in these games. So I found that conversation to be really interesting. Yeah, look forward to that in a couple weeks. Okay. Yeah, I listen to Midra while doing my laundry. I really like Midra. I don't like it as much as Ludwig, but it's very close. All right, let's do... This guy should be over here. Let's do the Putrescent Night, which, if I recall correctly, I very much liked this piece. Can you hear the horse? Can you hear the horse? Wait. Let's do a teachable moment. Can you hear the horse in this? Can you hear the galloping of the strings? What do you think the light soprano in the background symbolizes right here? What do you think this means? So how do you get the galloping? You get ba bum ba da 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 ya da 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 ba bum da 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 ya da 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 ba bum. So you think that symbolizes Trina? Okay, cool. So what would it symbolize if you didn't know the context? If you didn't know that Trina's in this game and what that relationship is, what would the little soprano represent, or the boy soprano represent? Heavenly marching. Yeah, the heavenly aspect is really interesting, because actually when this piece starts, there's actually a harpsichord, or sorry, there's a harp. And the harp almost always in video game music is almost always holy and religious. And in opera as well, it represents the celestial voice. You hear how it's almost like the putrescent night and the horse takes over, right? And the soprano is trying to fight her way into... You hear the strings are actually taking over the soprano? Isn't that cool too? Sorry, I'm talking a lot because I didn't do a breakdown or analysis of this. I only heard it once. But you know what's really cool too is that what we end up getting in here is actually the cello takes over for the soprano. So the soprano actually almost, it's like she gets squashed by the cello, and the cello becomes the main voice, the main melody, if you will. And so the galloping is really just the forward propulsion of the rhythm, right? But the soprano gets snuffed out by the sound of the cello, which is really interesting. What a wonderful... That's a really, really nice crescendo as well. And then there too, that's flailing of a sword, right? That's a combination of danger and desperation, which is really neat too. for the sub. Hold on one second. And now there's a duet, actually. And then the harp is back in. Notice how the harp is thrust first and thrust forward. And obviously we pick up in rhythm and in tempo. Fantastic heavy use of timpani in that. There's a twirling feeling in this, right? The timpani is terrific in this. So two things. One, thank you for the tip or the sub. I can't see what it was. I don't listen to music from viewers just because it gets sadly it gets a little bit too muddy. But it's not like I don't want to, but I just it's better if I don't. But thank you for that. I mean, obviously, if it's like in a game, then that's a different discussion. But if it's just like, you know, it's out there, I probably shouldn't. Just to protect myself because, you know, I don't know, it's complicated. So to me, that is an S. S. Yeah, I think that's an S theme for me. And the reason why I say that is because I think it's terrific. I actually, yes, that's an S. It is a terrific piece, and I do think it's extremely underrated, extremely slept on. I actually think it might be the best piece in Elden Ring. The undulation of the harp, the vocals, the mixture of the cello and the vocals. It's not overly loud. It's not overly aggressive. It's a very, very, very delicate mixed with violence and I love the sound of the spinning wheel. I love the sensation of feeling like slipping out of control. I love the feeling of not knowing how to navigate the path because it feels like you're being surrounded. Musically, I find it really... I enjoy the gentle violence that occurs there, especially when we consider the use of the harp and the very, very light soprano. It's a very, 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 very good piece that I'm very pleased to have listened to. I don't, maybe, I like it as much as those, so I'll put it up top. Okay, next up is Red Wolf, the Red Wolf of Radagon. Short and sweet. I mean, it's a cool theme because it's very jagged, very sharp. I wonder how you write a piece for a dog. Like what is the, obviously Sif has like a pretty intense story, and I'm assuming that the the Red Wolf of Radagon also has a lore entry or some sort of lore about it. So, but obviously sharp rhythms there. I know what the thing looks like, and I know that it jumps around a lot, and it's kind of ferocious with the sword in its mouth, and so on and so forth. But as far as the piece itself, it's fine. I mean, it does what it needs to do. I don't think it's anything wild or crazy. I mean, it is. It feels like filler, but I don't think that. Yeah, I'm gonna put it at a. I'm gonna put that over at a D. Yeah, it's fine. It's not like a bad piece or anything. It's just kind of there. All right, the Regal. Okay, we did that. Relana, the Twin Moon Knight. When I really forgot phase 2. I mean, it's a great piece. I didn't care for it the first time I heard it. I don't really care for it now either. But it's there's a couple things that really stuck out to me. The virtuosic violin is really, really satisfying and cool. There's so much movement in this piece. A doubling of the chorus is really interesting because I think it actually represents, now obviously knowing a bit of the lore, I think it represents Renala and R'hllana. Which is a really cool thing. Again, this is all interpretive. Like, none of this is based on fact or reality. It's all fiction and made up. But there is a doubling of the chorus at one point where the sopranos and the mezzos are very distinctly mixed together. The cello to me represents like a dissatisfaction. The doubling rhythm, I think there's a lot of doubled rhythm in here. Obviously, it's all pretty fast. I think that symbolizes dissatisfaction. Or no, sorry, that symbolizes duty and responsibility. I really like the reference. So in this particular piece, the reference to Renala is very subtle, but also quite nice. It is it's in there, but it's very like pushed in the background, and it's almost like maybe, you know, R'hllana's really far away from Renala, or there's some sort of distance there musically, which is pretty cool. Yeah, really, duty is really one that's coming up there. Duty, responsibility. The strings are ferocious and non-stop, which I think would symbolize like almost like a constant pushing onto the player, the constant pressing into them, forcing them to do something, forcing them to have to fight, and really being unrelenting. Now, I know that this boss is particularly difficult, but there is this sound quality where it's literally like pressing up against you so that you can't breathe and you can't back out of the corner. Rather than being cornered, it really just feels like pop, 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 pop. You know what I mean? The viola does dominate there at one point, which is really cool. Fading out, almost like choking on a struggle almost. The responsibility is in the rhythm, which is very cool. That's a B for me. It's okay. It's not a bad piece, but I'm kind of very neutral on it. Let's listen to Renala now. I think, it's interesting. I think we get caught up in a loop where we have to, if it's not like a banger or epic, or if it's overtly slow, then suddenly it's not a good piece of music. To me, this piece is actually way more interesting. Renala's theme is actually way better than Rolana's theme, as an example. I think it's much more emotional, much more telling. Hi, Marina. Much more, and hi, Raiders. Much more passionate, and much more like really telling a story. It doesn't have to be in your face at all times to be a good theme. And in fact, I think it's really bold to make a boss theme really slow, which is why I put Elden Beast as at a S+. It's a teen game. What does that mean? I've played it. I'm not a teenager. So to me, I actually think that I'm basing this list off of what I would listen to, and the general like feeling of it. And so honestly, for me, it's right next to her sisters. I mean, I think that they're both really interesting. And I like that they're basically the yin and yang of each other. I think the first half of Renala's theme is exceptional and superior to her sister's theme. The problem is the back half of it. The second phase is sort of, it progresses in a way that I don't really enjoy. It overstays. Yeah, it's a bit long. So I would put that at a B. The back half is probably a C+ ish, but C and below are basically themes that I don't really care for, or I find kind of lacking from myself. So anyway, yeah, that's that. That's how I feel about that. Oh wait, I have to do something really quick. Bear with me. Hold on one second. I have to. I've been asked that apparently it's very shameful that my background looks the way it does, and I didn't realize that it was bad. I'm really sorry. Hold on one second. I feel really ashamed right now. I'll explain everything. Bear with me one second. There we go. Should be better. All right. Anyway, where was I? Enjoy your lurk. Let's see here. What's next? Skadu tree. Right. Skadu tree avatar. Is there one more phase? No. Okay. So, I think this is a track that's very interesting. I think 3 phases is pretty interesting. I think having it slowly decay musically is very interesting as well. I find that the musical choices are. I forgot that I changed my wallpaper. I'm looking at my. I'm looking at my teleprompter that acts as a third monitor, and I looked over and there's just a picture of spaghetti. This is very funny. So, that's very funny. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So I think, Coach, I saw your question. I'm about to answer it in a second. And I saw your question, Bonergy. Just give me a second. So thank you for asking both of those questions. So for me, I mean, I think like the natural story progression of this piece is quite interesting. I think it's well composed, of course, obviously. I think that it's just a very well done piece. I think it shows a story. I think especially there's some really interesting, especially the end. The third phase is really the most interesting because we have that natural decay and we have a lot of doubling in the strings and the men. I think there's sopranos in there too. I'd have to listen to it another go. But so, I mean, I don't think it's a bad piece, but I don't. It's a C, I would say. It's fine. Kind of just, you're not bothering me, not at all. I never get bothered when people ask me things. I will put that at a C. As for your question, Coach, about doing a cover for some FromSoft music, I do have well, actually it's been a minute, but I'm trying to get the sheet. Well, I have the sheet music. I'm trying to get an orchestration done for Lawrence the First Vicar because that's a male chorus, and I think that would be really fun to sing. The other stuff is a little bit harder, and if it's not prevalent or prominent, I probably wouldn't invest the time or the money in order to do that. But Lawrence the First Vicar would be a great choice. And then as far as do I have a favorite phase? I truly love phase 2 of Lawrence of Ludwig the Holy Blade. I really love phase 1 of Lady Maria. Those are the 2 that stand out to me the most. I really love Soul of Cinder. I really love Promise Consort. I really love Elden Beast. Both phases of Promise Consort I think are exceptional. I really love Putrescent Night. I really love Artorias' theme. I really love I'm trying to think of the Living Failures. I have a big connection to Bloodborne for whatever reason. Bloodborne is the one I've played the most. And I've done multiple covers of Genshin Impact arias, actually. You don't need to pay for that. That's fine. It's something I do for fun. But yeah, so I would say that I tend to really like Bloodborne's OST more than the rest of the series. What is my type all times? What do you mean? Like my type, like that I like to be with? Right now I'm planning on marrying a Filipino. Anyway, that's not what you were asking, but I do think it's funny. All right, let's go. Okay, now we're doing Godric the Grafted. Salamat po. out. That's a lot better than I remember. I love the off rhythm too. You know, if I were ever to make a video called the most underrated track of Elden Ring, it would be, well, it would be two. It would be this, and it would be the Putrescent Night, because this is actually incredibly interesting and also like incredibly diverse. Like, it doesn't just do the same thing all the time. It really feels well thought out. It really feels incredibly well developed, and it's really good. It's a really good track. In fact, I should make that video, because you know that everybody forgets about Godric, including me. Or I'm sorry, yeah. I forgot the G's are getting, you know, but this particular track has so much in it. I think that's an S. I fucking love that. Yeah, let's do that. All right, now we're doing the Scarlet Rock Queens back to back. Saint of the Bud first, just for the cues. That's really, really religious, isn't it? Kind of. Fun little accents there by fun little accents too with the organ, which you don't really see very often. That's really nice, isn't it? The cascading strings there. That's a nice motif right there. This is really cool. I mean, just again, this a slight variation is always just so wonderful, and it's such a storied musical thing to do, you know. You know, I think if I'm looking at the like experience of this outside of the story, right? And I think motivically speaking, I think that's a really interesting piece, especially the second half. I think like the connection there musically is really, really cool, and I think extremely smart. And also it also helps because it's such a traditional thing. Like, you're being exposed to classical music every single time you listen to this music, right? Like, this is facts. Like, everything you listen to, like, I'm gonna make a video where it's like songs to impress your snobby classical music friends with, and frankly, any of these would do. But especially this piece, it's such a nice little callback. And again, the musical concepts here, where we are borrowing and varying and changing and rehashing themes because of characters, the musical callbacks, these are in line with the classical music history and the classical music greats. Mostly opera, when we think about Wagner being the sort of father-ish of this style of reference, and whether it's a couple notes, whether it's an entire theme, whether it's a specific place, motifs are the nouns of the musical world and of the musical landscape. And it's a really cool thing that happens a lot in video games because of the storytelling element, which is not dissimilar to opera. You know, you like opera without even knowing it. I mean, opera and video games are more interlinked than you probably realize. And that's a really cool thing that you should go tell somebody that is, you know, thinks that video game music is stupid. Because of how cool it is that these musical traditions are being used all the time in every video game almost. But that's a nice theme. But that's a C for me. I'm sort of neutral on it. Okay, then Millennia. I don't think there's a lot to the piece if without the callback to Millennia. Reading your comments. Oh wow, there's some horn in here I didn't notice. Actually, that's really cool. Hey, did you hear this? Listen to this. If you listen in the very background, this is why I like repeat listens. You actually get a really cool like horn press, like a brrr, brrr. That's actually really interesting because maybe that's the only part of this first phase where we feel like she's actually like violent. That's cool. Hold on, let's rewind just a little bit right here. Right there. You hear that? A little bit of a press. Do you hear that? That's cool. I really do like that lick right there. I like how then the cello comes forward too. It's pretty cool. The way that the strings kind of descend. That twirling is really fun too. The twirling of there's twirling in there too. Can I just tell you, Can I just tell you what a funny juxtaposition it is for me here to be like trying to expound musical like insights. Now I'm no like, I mean, I have a decade of experience, but like I'm over here trying to expound like trying to like teachable moments or like things that I notice or whatever. And it's really funny doing all that and having this like serious hat on and then seeing all of you be like mid you know, screw this person or whatever other comments you say. So I think that's extremely funny. It's really, the juxtaposition is hilarious. But I could also be like you, but I feel like that wouldn't serve you. It's really funny. It's cool, G. It's cool. I think Millennia's theme is really interesting because on the surface it really doesn't do all that much. Like if we just like listen to it very, very basically, it just kind of is sustained and it's a sustained mood, right? And it's sort of like there. I don't think it's bad, but it's just, it's sort of present. But if we really start to dig into like the role that this music plays in the first half especially is very poised, very, very gathered, very present, very very slow, whatever. When we then shift into phase 2, phase 2 is cool because phase 2 is when we peel back all of the layers and we are present in a new form, in a new intensity of that. And I think even that, like on a very macro meatball scale. Also, people keep calling me Macro. It's Marco, by the way. This happens all the time online. I don't know why. Sometimes I'd be like in a Call of Duty lobby and someone would be like, Macro Meatball. And I'd be like, why? It's the A-R-C macro. It's the switching of the switching of the R and the C. Anyway, point is, so whenever I think Macro Meatball. But so on a macro scale, that's as generic as you can get in terms of musical discussion. For phase 1, controlled, phase 2, unleashed, right? But then even in between those macro aspects, we get micro aspects. And the micro aspects are the interesting part, which is why you would go watch a person talk about this piece, right? Because the micro is actually where all the juicy little details are, the juicy little meatballs. And so I would encourage you also when you're listening to these pieces, even with me, think again outside of the fight. Think about like when you listen to that together here without all the stuff. Like obviously I remember Millennia, the fight, 6 hours, but let's take that, and next time you listen to this on your own, try to disseminate, like, which sounds a lot like inseminate. Try to think about what you like about both phases, like in the little details. What do you hear? Do you hear that thing go brrr? Do you feel this? You know what I mean? Think about those things. It's really important. That's a B. Okay. Oh my God, Marina, not you too. All right, Morgoth, the Omen King. We are cruising. Wouldn't it be funny? Did everybody see the Nikocado Avocado video where he came out and had lost like he had lost all this weight and basically the whole thing was a giant social experiment? I think that's so funny. I think that's so fascinating. I was thinking to myself, like, what if I was like that? And what if the truth was I never performed opera? And yet for 2 years, I'm 2 steps ahead. What if for 2 years, the entire time, I tricked you into thinking I was an opera singer? Which is actually hilarious because people in the comments will often be like, you clearly read the lore and all the stuff beforehand, and you're just like talking about the musical elements based on previous lore reads. So who knows? Someone's going to leave a comment now. I don't know. Was I actually an opera singer? What? Could it be that I was never an opera singer? I was. That 10-year-old video was not me. Really nice violin though there, right? And then the chorus is pretty cool too. The tremolo in the cello, in the bass and the tremolo is pretty cool. Okay, I guess. Cello is a very lost, a bit of just like half steps and stuff. Also, the chant is really interesting too. Get that doubling. Huh. Da, da, da. We're actually getting a lot of that in there. We get that almost the entire time, don't we? Right? Isn't that cool? That's pretty much the dominant theme there. And I wonder, like, let's look at it from a lore perspective. Like, like that happens a lot. It happens in the cello. It happens in the or the bass. I can't super tell. It's like the lower end of the cello or the upper end of the bass. Also, the soprano has that at one point as well. What's cool is that theme. There's an interesting mix, right? I mean, what are some of the emotions? You tell me, Chad. Like, what are some of the emotions that you feel when you listen to that? Because to me, it's really about being the front of the line, being the last of the like the front of the line, meaning like there's nothing else to stop us from going where we need to go, right? So like, what's what is that sound to you? To me, it really does feel like this ends here and now, but I'm terrified at the same time, right? Final stand, finality, uplifting. Really interesting. Okay, yeah, but not in a supportive way. Okay, yeah. HBO Sopranos, but with actual sopranos. Okay. Feels like desperation and anger. See, we're just saying whatever we feel. Desperation and anger. Yeah, for sure. Desperation. That's reaching. But a stain upon these thrones. Uplifting, like I'm going to kick your butt. Yeah, I could see that. Very much like a decisive confrontation, hidden vulnerability. Sure, and all of these things are totally right. And that's the cool thing, is that like there's no a feeling of tension, desperation, but determination. Yeah, resolve. Yeah. And there is, I think, in the cello especially, like what's cool about music is that music takes emotion, right? So all the things you're saying are great. Desperation, anxiety, stress, last stand, whatever, right? But the music makes it so that it is actually elevated. And that's the cool thing about music, is that music elevates words. Music elevates experiences. So that then when we listen to this stuff, we're like, holy shit, like this guy's desperate as hell. Why? Because the music indicates that to me. You know what I mean? So, do I have mods? Yes. Do you want to be timed out? Oh, shit. Marco Meatball went. Dad Meatball. What's weird is that I could be some of your father. Some of yours father. Let's see. All right, let's listen to Star Scourge Radon. God, the snare in here is so good. Nice brass in there. And then the call back to it. What is that? A French horn? No, I don't know what that is. Damn, that is 6 minutes already? You know, this piece is structured so well. That is the fastest 6 minutes. 6 minutes is a long fucking soundtrack, gang. Like 6 minutes is a long song. And that flies by both times. And I think it's because the two themes are extremely distinct. It's so good. And I think it really, really, really hits the nail on the head with how it wants us to feel. And I think it's a really fun and intense piece that also is very lush and full. And the male choir in there especially, my God, it dominates it in such a wonderful way. That is... so the question now becomes, do I like it as much or more than The Promised Consort? The back half is phenomenal. Phenomenal. And yeah, I think that's an S+. I think these are the most iconic pieces of this soundtrack for sure. The ones that are the most unique to me, the ones that are the most interesting. And basically, like, it's a no-brainer to put them here. Yeah. All right. Now we've got... let's see. We've got Godric. And I think I will probably skip the gargoyles. And the non-remembrance bosses. I know I did some on here, but... Ricard. If I recall correctly, I really like Ricard's theme. Let's see. God-devouring serpent. tremolo is fantastic. Super sustained. Shadow. It's super plotty too. Maybe it's plods around because really nice dissonance there. It goes sharp. Whoa. Here's the nice tenor part. They're calling and responding here, which is cool. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think my point still stands that the piece is very reminiscent of Evil, and probably the most evil piece in the game. I mean, Mog's theme is pretty rough in terms of, like, you know, it's the way that it describes the character, but this theme, Rikar's theme, is the most vile of the lot. It's certainly, you know, it doesn't really slither as much as I thought originally. Like, it does, but the first half is pretty sharp, actually, with the hitting of the sword and stuff. Whereas the second one is a bit more. I really like too how we go sharp. That little musical gesture there, which is really interesting to me, and really, I think it adds a little bit of spice to it. I also really like when we go ba da da ba da 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 do do do. That's really cool to me as well. So I think that's da 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 ba da 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 do. I think that's a B. Okay, I want to do one thing, because I want to listen to Godfrey again, because people were incensed that it was so low at a C. So I just want to give it another shot here. Let's see. I like how buttoned up phase 1 is. And the trumpets are pretty cool. Sharp rhythm. Sharp, dun, dun, sharp, sharp. Jump, 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 jump. Okay, now I want to hear Horaloo. Yeah, I don't dislike it. That back half is sort of just like, it just is so fast. Well, so I mean, the tribal elements are actually pretty cool. I was paying attention to those this time, and you really do feel like you can't breathe. Kind of like in Rolana, but Rolana had grace and poise and like a Victorian essence to it, whereas this is purely like vengeance and rage and anger, right? But it feels shallow. But I'll probably bump it up to a C+. I'll definitely keep it in the C. I don't think that it's like low C or anything like that. Like the dragon theme is a low C, Astel's a low C, but I think, yeah, I just don't really care for it. So I think this is definitely my list. I would say that Elden Beast is probably my favorite of the lot. I think the Dancing Lion theme is really special. I think Midra is the most like Bloodborne, which is why I like it so much. Starscourge Radahn has such interesting character. I should start featuring it more on Non-Gamer Reacts video series so that others can hear it too. I think The Promised Consort is a good representation of the original, but I actually, you know what? I think the original is better. But I do like the second for what it is. I think the original is better. I think the original is much better. I think the original is actually tighter. It's a little bit more nuanced musically too. I could get into the details in like a video maybe, but just because my brain doesn't want to function that way right now. But I actually think that Starscourge Radahn is actually a better. It's really good, but I think it's really. This is such a clean piece. And Putrescent Knight is just great. It's just like very, very good classical writing. And I really love it. I think this is absolutely the pieces that if you were like, hey, we have to listen to Elden Ring, what do you want to put on? These are the ones I would put on. Then below that, you have your S tier. Radagana Golden Order is a great piece of music. I love this piece. It's just it doesn't reach the heights as these. What's the name of this song? Those Chosen for whatever. I think I think that it's good because it really does have this elegance to it, and heroic, but also there's a mournful, sorrowful quality in it. And I think that it's there because it's just like such a unique piece for FromSoft. Those United in Common Cause. I think it's a really unique piece for FromSoft, and I think the whole like Gang Fest or whatever it is, like I haven't seen it. Oh wait, maybe I have. I have actually. Is this really cool? I think musically it's really unique. Malekith's theme I think is really special. I think the Fall from Grace sound in it is really neat. I also think that again, it's a bit of a slower piece and it swirls and twirls and whatever. I think that this piece is also really, really just has a lot of like stuff to it. It's just a very interesting character piece. Godric we listened to earlier, and it's just again another clean piece like Star Scourge. I think it offers a lot. I think it's interesting to listen to. I don't think it's like overly boring. I think it's actually a pretty special piece that we kind of really don't pay attention to. I think there's a lot of variability in it that's also really nice and interesting. Sorry. Doge. There's a lot of variation in this, which I think is really fun and interesting as well. So I definitely think that it keeps up the pace and keeps it really unique and makes you want to listen to the whole thing. And then Promise Consort, as I explained, it's just a slightly lesser version of the cleanliness of Star Scourge Radon. Then Regal Ancestor Spirit, I put an A because it's not a piece that I would actively listen to, but I do think that it should be celebrated because it's probably the most unique piece that's on the soundtrack. I think it's really good. Godskin Apostles I put on here because, again, I think it's a really interesting theme. I think it really showcases their sort of nefariousness and their capacity for, sort of, I don't know. Ever since I first heard it, there's like an essence of double crossing in here that I really feel is present in that piece. So I do very much like it, and it does sound very religious. Lich Dragon Fortisax is revenue sharing. I got another copyright claim. Is this real or fake? Let's see. Oh, okay, real. Huh. All right. Nothing major though. Lich Dragon Fortisax is such a cool theme, especially with the heavy use of organ. I think it's really unique. Again, much like Regal Ancestor Spirit, you don't kind of hear organ concertos very frequently. I will say that I put it in A because it's just loud the whole time, which kind of frustrates me a little bit. It's a bit like it makes your ears bleed a tiny bit, but I find it really interesting and cool. Mesmer, again, is a really interesting character piece like Malekith's theme, but I do think that it really hinges on the Radagon of the Golden Order theme, which is very cool in context and when you're fighting it, but in general I think it's sort of it doesn't quite hit the marks of the upper tiers. Regal Ancestor Spirit again, and then Mog, I explained earlier. I really like the harpsichord, and I really like that it's really locked into a classical Baroque style of music. And then also too in the back half you get a lot of those descending choral writing that I think is really neat. Bale's theme is just loud. I don't really think that it's very nuanced or unique. I think it's just a very loud piece that's highly effective, especially in context, of course. I find it it's a good piece, but I don't think it's anything too crazy special. When you mix it in with the Egon's voice lines, I think it's a really effective piece, but we're not basing this on context. We're basing this on listenability and also just like likes or dislikes, right? In terms of Placidus Sax, I think it's a really good theme. It just sort of is a bit neutral. I don't really feel like it does much of anything. That's not to say that it actually doesn't do anything. It does, but just in terms of my musical feelings about it, it just feels sort of like it just hovers a lot, and I wanted it to do something, and it just doesn't go in the direction that I want it to. I forget who this is, but I liked it. I think that the illusion. Oh wait, hold on. One sec. I have my list right here. Thank you. O'Neill. Isn't that O'Neill? Yeah. No. This is hold on. This is Elmer, the Fallen Knights theme. Yeah. Oh, the Fallen Knights theme. Yes, it's just cool because it has that dark sound to it, which is really, really interesting to me. If I remember correctly, this is the theme that's shared with the Shadow Riders, if I remember correctly. And I just genuinely like that theme. But again, it's sort of there, a little generic maybe. The Golden Godfrey, I think, is the Lord's Apparition. I think is way more interesting than the actual Godfrey theme. I think it again has a little bit more of that class, a little bit more of that a little bit more of that pompous quality, a little bit more of the smoothness and the dancing and the less in your face. And I quite like it. Margit's theme, I think, really highlights. I can't remember Margit's theme. I remember liking it. I can't remember why, which is weird. Matir's theme is cool. I think using a black hole is really unique and original. From part 1, if you remember, we listened to an actual sound of the black hole. I think that's such a wonderful and interesting musical choice. I also think that the first half is very, there's an intensity in it, and it feels kind of bleak at the same time. It feels very oppressive, which I found really interesting. Renala and Rolana, we talked about, there's respective reasons. I really liked, this was Jory's theme. I thought it was really cool, and I hadn't actually heard it before. I thought it was really nice. And then Millennia, again, I think it's kind of even though the second half is pretty intense, it dials up a little bit. I feel that the piece is kind of tepid, and it really doesn't, it's sort of, especially out of context, obviously it's just a little bit a little bit boring, but not a bad piece by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it's a really, really fun and beautiful piece, especially when you think about the sopranos and think about the use of the choir, and then obviously the phase 2 really dials it up. And Ricard, I just explained. Astel bumped up. Astel in my previous video was an F. I think Astel is actually really interesting and unique, though not as interesting or unique as Regal Ancestor Spirit. I put him there just because it just reminds me of I don't know, Richard Strauss. Who's this? This is C for the Death Knight. Never mind. So the Death Knight is down here. Yeah, just a little repetitive. Fire Giant is just incredibly forgettable, even though I love the sorrow and the plaintiveness that comes from this piece. Loretta both times is fine. It's a fine piece. Yeah, Godfrey, I can't get over. It's just here. It just doesn't do anything for me. And I just find it very shallow. And I haven't fully thought about why. I mean, this is the only one I haven't, Remembrance Bosses, that I haven't done a video on, and maybe I should just sit down with it for 20 minutes and figure out why I don't like it as much as the other themes. But that's where I put that. The Dragon Worm piece, fine, it's forgettable. Shadow Tree Avatar is whatever. I mean, it's a little bit too long. I also find that the most interesting part about it is when it's dying. And then Romina just relies, in my personal taste, too heavily on Millennia's theme to be really special. Morgoth's theme is beautiful, but yeah, it doesn't. I think Margit's theme is a little bit more interesting for my personal taste, and then here is basically just all the other themes that we listen to that are sort of just they feel very sort of not phoned in, because I don't think anything is phoned in this particular soundtrack or by any video game composer, but I do think that they're a little bit shallow and a little bit I don't know, just sort of as the kids say, mid. But yeah, so that's the sort of ranking filler. Yeah. So that's sort of my perspective. Again, this is completely subjective, and I hope that you'll do this for yourself, and I hope that you will, find your own tier list, and I hope that you'll listen to this music judiciously and not just because it's hype or because it makes you, we have to really think about why a piece feels interesting to you personally, not just because, it's a banger. Bale's theme is good. All of these pieces are good. Let's be clear. It's just a matter of taste and preference. And I think that, if you think Bale's theme is an S, well, by all means, I hope you have a good one. That's great. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my thought process on that. Dark Souls, we'll do a tier list for Dark Souls because that's the one I'm very intimately familiar with because I just played it a couple months ago. That video is on the channel if you want to watch that live stream. It was like 3 or 4 episodes, about 6 hours each. So if you like those, if you want to watch me play through all of Dark Souls. I'm glad that you're not disregarding the music anymore. It's pretty tricky because in these games especially, like I actually have played the New Game Plus of Dark Souls 3 about 5 times. I love Dark Souls 3 and I love Bloodborne, especially. Both of those are my 2 favorite FromSoft games, Soulsborne games especially. But I don't remember any of the music from Dark Souls 3, which is really funny. If you find tier lists enjoyable and not an overly shallow thing to do, I'd be very happy to do them for many other franchises and many other games series, Monster Hunter, Nier, all the FromSoft games. If you'd like that, that sounds like a lot of fun. The next FromSoft game I'll be playing will be Bloodborne. I'll be doing that in October, starting in October. I will be starting Bloodborne again. I've played it multiple times, like I said, but I will be playing it quite a bit in October. So yeah, and obviously this tier list, if you want to watch my previous tier list, some things are different. And some things are different. And again, I would encourage you, as we're finishing up, I would encourage you to really, really, really re-listen to tracks. There is so much to be uncovered. And, you know, I joke about making a video where I listen to a song for 15 hours, but there's so much that you can listen to and explore and learn. Thank you, pizza. There's so much you can learn from listening to tracks, even tracks that you hate, more than one time, because there's, you know, I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to do, and it's something that we in classical music, in the world of opera, in the world of classical music, there are plenty of pieces that I've sung and have never enjoyed, and you just have to learn them. A lot of contemporary music sucked to learn and would literally make me feel like I was singing on broken glass, and then we'd switch over to sing something like Puccini, which is much more fluid and much more melodic, and then my voice would suddenly feel good. So all that to say is that even though I hated those pieces, I still had to perform them, still had to, like, you know, make my paycheck and do the performance to the best of my ability. And I think that we can, you know, sort of take that and to a lesser degree sit down and listen to these tracks, whether we love them or not, and try to come to conclusions about music and how it makes us feel. And while I think theory is a really important part of music and it's an essential part of music, we also have to think about the fact that music is based on feeling. All composers are writing for feeling. It's not like, unless they're sitting there basically, you know, gooning about, did I say that right? Gooning? Gooning about, you know, compositional style and structure. I really think that most composers would tell you that that the emotional part is the most important part. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. Anyway, as far as how many guests I have filmed, there's about 8 more guest videos for gamers that have come on the channel, and then for non-gamers I have about 3. And then I'm hoping to keep that going through the new year, so a few more times, at least another 4 episodes of that for the rest of the year. Yeah, so with that, I think that's where I'll cut it. I'm going to go ahead and make some dinner. Do you have any questions for me, chat? And then again, it's just a friendly reminder that both part 1 and part 2 will be merged together and created into a super long tier list video that I hope you'll enjoy and watch, because I'll have Nathan make sure he goes in and adds things that are fun and interesting for you, and the editing will be pretty clean, so just so it's a more easy viewable experience. Ibushi video when? That's a great point. I would love to do that. Am I Italian? See, I have a question. How am I today? I'm really good. I had to go to I had to go get my eyes checked. My vision is good. I'm not getting degenerative diseases or glaucoma, so that's good. I walked Luna a bunch today. I think Dark Souls 3 or ER music. Well, I can't remember Dark Souls 3 music, but I would say Dark Souls 3, honestly. A live rendition of Ludwig the Holy Blade possible? Unlikely. It's a little bit too spread out between voice types and things. Yeah, my license is expiring because my birthday's on Wednesday, so I have to go in and get it renewed. How can you read emotion from music? I want to do it so bad. I've been thinking about this, and I don't really know. I would like to provide you with some sort of a video or something so that you can start to understand it and not watch the channel anymore. That's ultimately like a really important goal for me, is to get people to kind of leave and go and do their own thing. Yes, I really enjoyed listening to Ragnarok Online. In fact, Alex Mukala shared another Ragnarok Online piece with me. And it's incredible how varied that soundtrack is. It's really cool. How does music make me feel personally? Music sustains me. Music is the reason I wake up every day. Music is the reason I sit down every day and work this like a 9 to 5. And when I don't, I feel guilty. Music is everything. Music is life. Without music, we have nothing. I think personally, like, music is more important to me than gameplay in a lot of ways. If a soundtrack is incredible, it will justify the shitty ass game. Most people don't view it that way. Most people are gameplay first, which I can't blame myself. Obviously, I enjoy games because of the gameplay. But in my, as I've sort of crossing into almost 40, I've come to realize just how important music is, and how important getting people to understand why music is so important. I think music is an incredible thing, and it's incredible that we live in a modern time period where there are so many video game composers. It's an incredible thing. We are so blessed with how much video game music is in existence, to the point that it's being forgotten because we move so fast with releases every year. There are I'm playing Hyper Light Drifter, I'm playing Katana Zero right now. I am about maybe 2 hours left in the game. Music is phenomenal. It's perfect synth, perfect for driving. Tunic is another one I put on my in the car ride today to go to get my vision done. And Tunic's soundtrack I'd never heard before, and I was like, wow, this is astounding, so good. Put on a soundtrack you've never heard before and just listen to it. Because like there's a lot of resistance that occurs. A lot of the time that I first hear a track, most of the time I dislike a track on a first hear, but then as you keep listening, all of a sudden you start to hear the things and the puzzle piece comes together, and it's a really satisfying experience. Brahms or Wagner? Brahms. Wagner's not really my cup of tea, and also Wagner was an anti-Semitic piece of shit. But other than that, I also feel that Brahms' music is more heartfelt and more honest. Those Who Deny the Dawn is really cool. I actually played it for my tenor friend whose video will be out at the end of next week. Outer Wilds, I still love and hate Outer Wilds. I hate it because it wasn't fun, but I loved it because it was a moving experience. Do I like Mahler? I haven't heard enough of it, but I want to listen to Mahler 8 as soon as possible because my friend Christine, who's going to be on the channel, is singing it, and I'm intrigued. I also really like, yeah. When I fall asleep, do I listen to something? No, I play video games. I fall asleep usually playing a video game. What is your favorite game soundtrack? It's too hard to tell. There's too many. I just did a Desert Island video where I featured 10 of my favorite soundtracks, but I would have to say it's a mix between Nier, The Witcher 3, Final Fantasy 9, selections from all Final Fantasy games, Ace Combat, selections from, I'm trying to think, there's so many, selections from Genshin Impact, selections from Punishing Gray Raven, selections from Arknights. This is my like gotcha corner. I really like the soundtrack to Katana Zero. Yeah. I really like the sound. God, there's just so many. I've been trying to separate what's my favorite and what's the community's favorites, because I listen to so much video game music that I've started to lose what are my favorites as well. Ender Lilies has a great soundtrack, yeah. Do I eat Marco's meatballs or Macro's meatballs on your spaghetti? Marco's. Octopath Traveler 2 is a phenomenal soundtrack and should have won Soundtrack of the Year last year. Why did I put Romina so low? I already explained it. You got timed out? Were you being an asshole? Any War Within videos? No. Hello, Japan. Okay, please do. Yes, music does change. I think you can't really, the things that you love 10 years ago are not the same things you love 10 years later. That's just not how it works. In my opinion. When I first started grad school, I hated Benjamin Britten. And then I had to listen to a piece, an opera by Benjamin Britten. I think it was The Rape of Lucretia, because I was auditioning for a role. And I was like, I turned it off after 10 seconds, went back, re-listened to it, and I fell in love with the piece. And then I was studying and preparing for Ariadne auf Naxos by Richard Strauss, and I literally, after 10 seconds, I turned it off because I absolutely hated Strauss. And then I saw it, and this was an instance where context in an opera actually made the opera more meaningful and the music more enjoyable, and I actually cried multiple times. There's a specific section in Act 2 of Ariadne auf Naxos. It's a play within a play. So the first half is them preparing to put on this performance, and the whole performance gets screwed up. And so they have to have multiple acts at one time at the same time. So there's a super serious, boring, literally it's boring on purpose. There's a super serious, boring opera happening on stage. And then around them is this troupe of comedians that is commedia dell'arte comedians that have to sing with them. And it's incredibly funny. And it's like the Ariadne auf Naxos opera is incredibly serious, but then the comedic troupe around them is incredibly funny. In fact, we should watch it this month. I should put that on the must-watch opera with an opera singer video series, and we should watch that for sure. That'd be really fun. It's great. Yes, I have to go get food, but I was answering questions. I don't ever get to do any questions and stuff. She quotes a poem from the most prestigious collection of Japanese poetry. The poem muses on how the waking world can seem like a dream that was composed by a man in mourning. That seems to fit Raiden Shogun. Any other questions before I hop off here? I appreciate you, Zeph. What is the blue picture behind me? Oh, this picture right here, you're actually going to see it in a video that I'm doing for Astrobot, but it's actually a deconstructed PlayStation. It's got all the characters deconstructed. It's really cool. I had the privilege of seeing the Dvorak New World Symphony. What a great symphony. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you think Elden Ring DLC music will reach Bloodborne quality? Yeah. I don't think it's as good. But I think it's like a notch right below. Like if Bloodborne is an S, then Elden Ring's an A, or S plus S. I don't think it's like at that point we're talking about minutia. It's a great soundtrack, but it's Bloodborne personally is better. Marco, can you tell us soprano? Yes, they have different voices. The boy soprano is a little bit lighter. Usually can't have any vibrato. Female singers, sopranos, adult sopranos, I should say, have a more full tone. Boy sopranos tend to have a more strident tone, a little bit harsher tone, even when it's in falsetto like that. There's a degree of a sound quality that separates the two. But I'd love to take a test to see if I can guess. Long sleeves are indicative of grief, as the aristocracy use their sleeves. Oh wow. I haven't listened to a lot of Ennio Morricone, but there is some really good stuff out there, especially with that Wild West soundscape. Especially with the flutes and that sort of dust settled sound. Any chance in the future you would tell us your top 5 game soundtracks? I just filmed a Desert Island video where I bring 10 songs with me if I have the choice. And I had to only bring 10. I think that would basically be I feel like that would basically be my top 5 game soundtracks, but I could do a specific video on that if that's even remotely interesting. I'd be happy to. That's okay. Journey, Skyrim, Bloodborne. Oh yeah, Journey is a great soundtrack. Yeah. There are so many. The thing that's really cool about music and video games is that there's really something for everything, for everyone. And if you're in a mood, there's something that fits your mood no matter what. Like Tunic, great driving music. I was like so impressed. Katana Zero, great driving music. Also great like hanging out music. Shadow of the Colossus is a great soundtrack. I really need to replay it. I've really been in an indie kick recently. I basically haven't played a gacha game. I mean, I played Arknights the other day, but I haven't played a gacha game in a month and a half or so. And I've been really taking my time to play more, well, Guild Wars 2 and yeah, a lot of indie stuff. Yes, Bale is B. You play the Doom soundtrack. Well, okay, I'm going to go cook dinner. Have a great rest of your day or morning or night or whatever. Appreciate it. Look forward to the full-length video of this sometime next week. And thanks a ton, and we'll see each other later, okay? Bye, everybody. Take care of yourself.